The first alien species to witness human boredom never recovered. Think about that statement. It's not a punchline. It's a diagnosis. A terrifying, stark observation of a uniquely human affliction, one so profoundly counter-revolutionary, so antithetical to life itself, that a species capable of traversing galaxies would find it incomprehensible, a psychic wound from which they couldn't heal. What did they see in us in that state of boredom that broke their understanding of sentient existence? They saw a void, a self-imposed paralysis, a creature blessed with consciousness, with the power to shape reality, choosing instead to marinate in a stagnant pool of nothingness. They saw potential combusting into ash before it ever ignited. They saw an organism actively cultivating its own decay. This isn't science fiction. This is a brutal metaphor for the war many of you are losing within yourselves. The war against purposelessness, against the creeping apathy that boredom truly signifies. Today, we don't just explore this concept, we weaponize it. We turn this horrifying, alien perspective into a lens to scrutinize our own lives, to identify the rot of chronic boredom, and to understand that it's not a passive state, but an active enemy, a killer of dreams, a destroyer of discipline, and the silent architect of a mediocre life. You are here because you sense that something is fundamentally wrong with accepting boredom as normal. You're right. It's a symptom of a deeper malfunction, a surrender to weakness. And by the end of this, you will understand not only why this human phenomenon is so destructive, but how to build an inner fortress against it. How to cultivate a mind so engaged, so purposeful, that the very concept of being bored becomes alien to you. It's time to understand what those aliens saw, and to ensure you never embody that horror yourself. Let's dissect this. The cosmic horror of human boredom. Why would an advanced alien species, observers of countless cosmic phenomena, never recover from witnessing something as mundane as a human staring blankly at a wall, scrolling endlessly through a feed, or sighing with existential ennui? Because to a being whose existence is likely defined by adaptation, by purpose, by the efficient and relentless pursuit of understanding or expansion, human boredom would represent a catastrophic system failure. It's not just the absence of activity, it's the acceptance of meaninglessness. It's a conscious being choosing stasis over growth, emptiness over engagement. Imagine a star deciding to stop fusion. Imagine a river deciding to flow uphill out of sheer listlessness. It's unnatural. It's a perversion of the life principle. The brutal truth is this. Chronic boredom, the kind that gnaws at your soul, isn't a lack of things to do. It's a lack of you to do them. It's a symptom of an internal engine that has seized up, choked by a lack of vision, a deficiency of discipline, or an outright refusal to engage with the inherent discomfort of meaningful effort. The aliens would see a creature with a godlike brain, capable of art, science, love, and sacrifice, willingly unplugging itself from its own potential. They would see a profound spiritual and mental decay, a voluntary surrender to entropy. Modern society, with its fire hose of instant gratification and passive entertainment, doesn't just enable this. It breeds this lethal form of boredom. It conditions you to expect constant external stimulation, leaving your internal landscape barren and uncultivated. When the screen goes dark, when the noise stops, you're left alone with a terrifying silence, a void you haven't been trained to fill from within. That's the horror. The horror is the realization that the most dangerous void isn't in outer space. It's the one you allow to fester inside your own mind. The one that whispers that nothing matters, that effort is futile, that distraction is preferable to the hard work of building a self. This is the weakness we're here to destroy. Not by finding more distractions, but by forging an inner world so rich, so compelling, that boredom cannot find a foothold. The first step is recognizing it for the disease it is, not the benign inconvenience we've been taught to accept. What those aliens saw was a betrayal of the gift of consciousness. And the question for you is, are you complicit in that betrayal? Now let's drag this out of the realm of cosmic metaphor and into the harsh light of your daily existence. Consider the wasteland within, boredom as the ultimate killer of potential. That feeling of being bored, truly, existentially bored, is the sound of your potential screaming in a vacuum. It's the ache of unused capacity, the corrosion of ambition by inaction. This isn't just about a wasted afternoon. It's about a wasted life, accumulating minute by agonizing minute. The brutal truth: your boredom is a direct, unflinching reflection of your lack of internal drive and the absence of a clearly defined, deeply felt purpose. It's the flat line on the ECG of your aspirations. When you are bored, you are not a victim of circumstance. You are a volunteer for stagnation. Think about how this killer operates. It's insidious. It disguises itself. It whispers to you that you deserve a break that extends into days, weeks, months of listless consumption. Procrastination isn't born of laziness alone. It's often the child of an unaddressed boredom, a mind that cannot generate its own impetus, its own reasons to act. So it seeks the path of least resistance, the endless scroll, the binge watch, the substance that numbs the discomfort of that inner void. These are the modern opiates, the digital soma, designed to keep you placidly disengaged from the effort of becoming. Each click, each episode, each momentary hit of dopamine widens the chasm between who you are and who you could be. The aliens, witnessing this self-sabotage, this deliberate frittering away of finite time and infinite potential, wouldn't just be confused. They'd be appalled. They would see a being choosing the Skinner box over the open frontier. The antidote isn't to find more sophisticated distractions. It's to confront the void. It's to sit with the discomfort of doing nothing until that discomfort itself becomes the catalyst for meaningful action. This is where radical self-improvement begins, in the willingness to face the barrenness within and to take responsibility for cultivating it. What are you avoiding when you flee into the arms of distraction? Usually it's the hard questions. What do I truly want? What am I willing to suffer for? What small, difficult step can I take right now to move towards something that matters? Boredom thrives in the absence of these answers. To destroy boredom is to commit to the ongoing, often arduous process of defining and pursuing your own purpose, even if it's just for the next hour. Stop waiting for motivation to strike like lightning. Generate it. Forge it in the fires of discipline. The wasteland within only becomes fertile when you pick up the damn shovel and start digging, especially when you don't feel like it. This is the first Stoic law of engagement. Your internal state is your responsibility. Your boredom is your creation, and therefore its annihilation must also be your masterpiece. This internal wasteland, this breeding ground of boredom, doesn't just stifle potential, it actively cultivates negativity. This brings us to the unseen enemy, how boredom feeds negative thinking and destroys mental fortitude. The old adage, an idle mind is the devil's workshop, is a profound psychological truth. When your mind is not actively engaged in constructive, purposeful thought or action, it defaults to its baser programming: fear, anxiety, self-doubt, resentment, and comparison. Boredom creates a vacuum, and negative thought patterns rush in to fill it. Suddenly, that gnawing feeling of nothing to do morphs into "I am nothing. My life is pointless. I'm not good enough." These aren't rational conclusions. They are the toxic byproducts of an untrained, undisciplined mind left to fester in its own inactivity. The brutal truth here is that you're not just bored. Your mind is turning on itself. Like a powerful engine left in neutral but with the throttle jammed open, it overheats, rattles, and eventually starts to break down. You're experiencing the cognitive equivalent of a caged animal packing endlessly, its energy turning destructive because it has no outlet. This is where mental toughness is eroded, not by external challenges, but by internal surrender. You allow the whispers of inadequacy, born from the silence of inaction, to become your perceived reality. The aliens, with their presumed mastery over their own cognitive processes, would view this as a fundamental design flaw, a kind of mental autoimmune disease where the consciousness attacks its own well-being simply because it's not given a worthy task. This is where Stoicism offers not just a shield but a sword. The concept of the inner citadel, that fortress of mental resilience you build within yourself, is crucial. It's about cultivating a mind that can find meaning, peace, and engagement regardless of external circumstances. A mind that doesn't require constant entertainment to remain stable and productive. How do you build this citadel? Through active mental engagement, through structured thought, through purposeful solitude, which is the antithesis of boredom. Purposeful solitude is when you choose to be alone with your thoughts to reflect, to plan, to create, to solve problems. Boredom is when solitude is imposed upon you by your inability to direct your own mental energy. The actionable step is to declare war on passive mental states. When you feel boredom creeping in, recognize it as a red flag, an alert that your mind is slipping into that dangerous neutral gear. Intervene. Don't just seek another distraction. Engage in something that requires cognitive effort, even if it's small. Read a challenging article and summarize its key points. Plan your next day in meticulous detail. Work on a skill. Meditate not to empty your mind, but to observe its workings and regain control. The more you practice this deliberate mental engagement, the stronger your inner citadel becomes. You start to starve the negative thought patterns of the idle mental space they need to thrive. You transform boredom from a source of misery into a cue for self-mastery. You learn to command your thoughts rather than be commanded by them. This is the destruction of weakness at its very root, the taming of your own runaway mind. Now let's address a domain where the stench of boredom is particularly repulsive, a domain that many of you are keen to master. The anti-attraction field, boredom, energy mastery, and the repulsion of true connection. Let's be brutally honest about women, and frankly about human connection in general. Chronic, existential boredom is profoundly unattractive. It is the antithesis of vitality, of passion, of direction, qualities that are universally magnetic. A person consumed by boredom, a person who visibly radiates a lack of inner fire, is like a psychic black hole. They don't just fail to attract, they actively repel. Why? Because boredom signals a deep-seated passivity, a lack of ownership over one's own life and energy. It suggests a void that you expect others to fill, a burden you subtly try to impose on those around you. Think about energy mastery. We are all beings of energy. Some people walk into a room and an almost palpable sense of purpose, of drive, of engagement precedes them. They are present, focused, and their inner world seems to generate its own light. Others carry their boredom like a shroud. They leak energy. They exude listlessness. Their conversation is often a catalog of complaints about having nothing to do or a desperate search for the next fleeting distraction. Who would you rather be around? Who embodies strength? Who commands respect and sparks interest? The brutal truth about attractiveness, especially for men seeking to attract quality women, is that your internal state is your primary calling card. No amount of superficial charm, money, or looks can ultimately mask a spirit hollowed out by chronic boredom. A woman of substance is drawn to a man of substance, and substance is forged in the fires of purpose, not in the stagnant waters of indolence. The aliens, witnessing a human male failing to attract a mate not because of physical deficiency, but because of a profound lack of inner animation, an inability to project any compelling vision or drive, would be mystified. They'd see a biological imperative, procreation, connection, short-circuited by a psychological failing, chronic boredom leading to unattractiveness. They might conclude that this boredom is a kind of anti-viability signal, a warning sign that this individual lacks the internal resources to be a strong partner, a capable leader, or a contributor to anything meaningful. The actionable path here is not about learning pickup lines. It's about becoming the kind of man who doesn't need lines because his very being is an invitation to engagement. This requires conquering boredom at its core. It means cultivating passions, developing skills, setting goals, and pursuing them with a relentless, focused energy. When you are genuinely engaged in building something, your physique, your business, your knowledge, your character, you radiate a different frequency. You become a creator, not just a consumer. This inner fire is intrinsically attractive. It signals that you are a source of value, not a drain. So, identify your energy drains linked to boredom. Where are you passively consuming when you could be actively creating? Where are you waiting for life to happen to you instead of making life happen through you? Plug those leaks with purposeful action. Master your energy by mastering your engagement with life. The attractiveness you seek is a byproduct of a life well lived, a mind fully engaged, and a spirit that refuses to be bored. It's about building a powerful internal locus of control, where your validation and your drive come from within, not from the fleeting approval of others. This is the path to becoming not just attractive, but truly compelling. So, how do we systematically dismantle this edifice of boredom and erect in its place a fortress of unyielding drive? We do it by forging the unbored mind, Stoic habits to annihilate stagnation and build an unstoppable drive. This isn't about wishful thinking. It's about practical, daily disciplines rooted in Stoic wisdom. The Stoics understood that a well-ordered mind, focused on what it can control and diligently working within that sphere, is impervious to the kind of existential listlessness that plagues modern man. First, embrace the disciplined pursuit of goals, even micro-goals. The brutal truth is that most people are bored because they have no clear, compelling objectives pulling them forward. A Stoic approach isn't about setting grandiose, unattainable dreams, but about identifying virtuous, meaningful actions you can take today. Break down larger ambitions into daily or even hourly tasks. The act of setting an intention and then executing it, no matter how small, generates momentum. This momentum is the antithesis of boredom. It creates a positive feedback loop. Action leads to accomplishment, accomplishment fuels motivation, motivation leads to more action. Your journal shouldn't just be for reflection, it should be a battle plan. What will you conquer today? Second, cultivate the habit of useful discomfort. Modern boredom often stems from an addiction to comfort and an aversion to anything that requires sustained effort. We seek the easiest path, the most passive entertainment. A Stoic warrior deliberately chooses the harder right over the easier wrong. This means choosing challenging activities over mindless consumption. Read a difficult book instead of scrolling. Engage in strenuous exercise instead of sinking into the couch. Learn a complex skill instead of binge-watching. The initial resistance will be there, but pushing through it builds mental toughness and, paradoxically, leads to a deeper, more satisfying form of engagement. Boredom thrives on ease. Purpose thrives on challenge. Third, practice amor fati, love of fate, even for the empty moments. There will be times when external demands are low, when you find yourself with unstructured time. The undisciplined mind sees this as an invitation to boredom. The Stoic mind sees it as an opportunity. Use these moments for deep reflection. Review your principles, assess your progress, contemplate your mortality to clarify your priorities. Use them for planning, strategize your next moves, refine your goals. Use them for deep work. Tackle a complex problem that requires uninterrupted concentration. The Stoic doesn't run from solitude, they leverage it. This transforms potential downtime from a threat into a powerful tool for self-improvement. The ultimate brutal truth here is that true self-improvement isn't about finding more things to do to escape boredom. It's about changing who you are when there's seemingly nothing to do. It's about cultivating an internal landscape so rich and self-directed that external circumstances become largely irrelevant to your sense of engagement and purpose. This requires consistent, deliberate practice. Implement specific Stoic habits. Morning intention setting. Before the world can impose its distractions, define what a productive, virtuous day looks like for you. What will you focus on? What temptations of idleness will you resist? Evening review, reflect on your day. Where did you act in accordance with your principles? Where did you succumb to distraction or listlessness? What can you learn for tomorrow? This isn't self-flagellation, it's course correction. The dichotomy of control and action. When boredom threatens, immediately ask, what here is within my control? The external stimulus, or lack thereof, is not. Your response, your choice of internal focus, your decision to engage in a self-directed task is entirely within your control. Seize that control. Practice voluntary hardship. Periodically and deliberately deprive yourself of a common comfort or engage in a difficult task you've been avoiding. This trains your resilience and makes the baseline of normal life feel more engaging, less prone to the ennui of excessive comfort. By consistently applying these principles, you're not just fighting boredom, you're re-engineering your default state. You're building an unbored mind, an engine of unstoppable drive that powers itself from within. This is the path from weakness to strength, from being a passive recipient of circumstance to an active shaper of your own existence. Finally, let's use the alien perspective as a mirror, reclaiming your humanity from the jaws of indifference. That initial image, the advanced species recoiling in horror from human boredom, isn't just a dramatic hook. It's a challenge. If beings with a presumed higher understanding of existence, of purpose, of the preciousness of consciousness, are horrified by this state, what should we feel about our own capacity for it, our own society's tacit acceptance of it? It should light a fire under us. It should provoke a profound dissatisfaction with any part of ourselves that tolerates such a downgrade of the human spirit. The brutal truth is, you are capable of so much more than succumbing to the slow, creeping coma of boredom. The potential that lies dormant within you, the ideas, the creations, the contributions, the strength of character, these are the very things that define your humanity, the things that an alien observer, free from our cultural conditioning towards passivity, would expect to see in full bloom. When you choose boredom, or rather, when you fail to actively choose against it, you are dimming your own light. You are, in a small way, betraying the evolutionary miracle that is conscious human life. This isn't about becoming a hyperproductive automaton devoid of rest or reflection. True rest and reflection are active, purposeful states. They rejuvenate, they clarify. Boredom, in the chronic sense we're discussing, is the opposite. It's a draining, depleting inertia. The call here is to a higher standard of internal existence. It's a call to embrace the inherent struggle and effort required to live a life of meaning and engagement. Because the alternative, the vacant stare, the hollow feeling, the life unlived, is, from an objective, even alien standpoint, a tragedy. What are the final, actionable steps to reclaim your vitality from this indifference? Commit to a non-negotiable core purpose. This doesn't have to be saving the world. It can be becoming the strongest version of yourself, mastering a craft, building a solid family, contributing value in your work. But it must be yours, and it must be compelling enough to pull you through discomfort. Schedule your discomfort. Just as you schedule meetings, schedule activities that push your boundaries, that build discipline, that force engagement. This is preemptive war against boredom. Curate your inputs ruthlessly. Be brutally honest about the media, the people, and the habits that foster passivity and mental laziness in your life. Minimize or eliminate them. Replace them with inputs that challenge, inspire, and educate. Embrace memento mori as a motivator. Remember you will die. This isn't morbid, it's clarifying. With a finite amount of time, is being bored truly how you want to spend any of it? Let the awareness of your mortality fuel your urgency to live with purpose. Find your tribe of the engaged. Surround yourself with people who are also committed to growth, purpose, and overcoming weakness. Their energy and standards will be contagious. Avoid circles that normalize or even celebrate apathy. The aliens never recovered because they witnessed a sentient being choosing nothingness over the infinite possibilities of existence. Let that sink in. Let it galvanize you. You have the power to choose differently every single day, every single moment. You have the capacity to build an inner world so vibrant, so driven, so aligned with your deepest values, that boredom becomes an artifact of a past self, a weakness you systematically hunted down and destroyed. The horror isn't the boredom itself, it's the acceptance of it. It's the surrender. Today, that surrender ends. The path to an unstoppable mindset, to radical self-improvement, to the kind of mental toughness that can weather any storm, begins with conquering this fundamental human frailty. It begins with deciding that your attention, your energy, your life are too precious to be squandered in the gray twilight of indifference. Look in that alien mirror. See the potential for horror and then turn away from it decisively and build a self that would inspire awe, not incomprehension. The power to do this is not out there. It's within you. Unleash it. Start now.